Greetings. It is December the 31st, 2025. 3 days ago, the history of our solar system, and perhaps our understanding of our place within it, altered in a way we are only just beginning to comprehend. We are currently 72 hours past the closest approach of the interstellar object designated 3I Atlas, also known as C2025N1. On December 19th, this visitor from the vast abyss slipped past Earth at a distance of approximately 270 million kilometers. In astronomical terms, that is a secure gap, a convenient buffer that should have resulted in nothing more than a few fuzzy telescopic images and a summary of spectral data. But that is not what happened. Instead, as the object reached its perihelion relative to our planet, our own planetary systems began to sing a different song. We are looking at a data set that defies the standard models of cometary interaction, and the implications are frankly unsettling. Let's look closer at the data coming in from independent monitoring stations across the globe. Generally, when a comet passes, we look up. We train our optical and radio telescopes on the sky to catch the volatile gases evaporating off the nucleus. But this time, the most startling anomaly wasn't found in the blackness of space, but right here in the electromagnetic cavity of our own atmosphere. I want to draw your attention to a report that surfaced almost immediately after the closest approach, originating from a dedicated specialist known in the community as all-day astronom. This wasn't a standard visual observation, it was a reading of the Schumann resonance. For those of you who follow our deep dives into geophysics, you know that the Schumann resonance is effectively the pulse of Earth. It is a set of spectrum peaks in the extremely low-frequency portion of the Earth's electromagnetic field spectrum. These are standing waves generated and maintained in the cavity formed by the Earth's surface and the ionosphere. The fundamental frequency of this pulse is a firm, reliable 7.83 Hz. It has been that way since life crawled out of the oceans. It is the constant hum of our biosphere. However, at the precise moment 3I Atlas brushed past our neighborhood, that heartbeat jumped. The data shows a distinct high-amplitude signal locking in at exactly 25 Hz. This is not a harmonic we usually see. It is not a fluctuation caused by a standard lightning storm or solar wind interaction. It is a sharp, artificial-looking peak that appeared out of the noise and persisted. So what does this actually mean? If you are looking at the spectrograms we are projecting now, you can see the baseline at 7.83 Hz, the faint harmonics at 14 and 20 Hz, and then this massive unexplained tower of energy at 25 Hz. The timing is the critical factor here. The coincidence of this event with the comet's passage appears non-random. In science, we are trained to be doubtful of coincidence, to look for the hidden variable that connects two seemingly unrelated events. But here, the variable is staring us in the sight. An interstellar object with anomalous properties passes by, and our planet's electromagnetic field reacts. Before we go further into the implications of this signal, if you want to stay updated on this rapidly evolving situation as we research the data coming in from the Jupiter approach in the coming months, make sure you subscribe to the channel. We are tracking this object day by day, and you won't want to miss the analysis of the trajectory data we have just received. Now back to the 25 Hz anomaly. The appearance of a 25 Hz frequency misses obvious terrestrial explanations. We have checked global lightning activity databases. We have looked at HARP transmission logs. We have even looked at tectonic precursors. Nothing fits. The signal is too pure, too sustained. This contradicts what we former thought about the detach of Earth's magnetosphere from passing non-magnetic bodies. A standard ball of ice and rock, a frozen debris, as we used to call comets, should not induce a resonance shift in the planetary cavity from 270 million kilometers away. The physics just aren't there. Unless, of course, the object is not just a ball of ice and rock. This brings us to the uncomfortable territory of active interaction. Proponents of the hypothesis about the object's artificial origin suggest that the changes could have been caused by its activity. If 3i Atlas is emitting a field or a communication beam or a propulsion exhaust that interacts with the ionosphere, a 25 Hz resonance could be a side effect, a harmonic resonance of a much higher energy output. The impact of such changes on the life forms and geophysical processes remains poorly studied, giving rise to various speculations. We know that biological systems are sensitive to electromagnetic fields. There are studies linking fluctuations in the human resonance to human mental states, to cardiac rhythms, and even to seismic activity. While no definitive conclusions have been reached on this matter, the anecdotal reports of headaches, anxiety, and strange animal behavior on December 19th are filling social media. We have to be careful not to conflate correlation with causation, but the sheer volume of reports is statistically significant. If the 25 Hz signal is actual, and if it is connected to the comet, we are dealing with a connection that goes beyond gravity and reflected sunlight. We are dealing with a systemic interface. However, we must also play the devil's advocate. If the object is an ordinary comet, explaining the appearance of this specific signal becomes difficult, and the coincidence may be purely chance. It is possible that we are seeing a statistical fluke, a rare atmospheric event that just happened to align with the perihelion. Mainstream science examines this data within the framework of studying the natural behavior of comets, particularly such unusual ones arriving from beyond the solar system. They argue that we simply don't have a wide enough sample size of interstellar comets to know what their electromagnetic signatures look like. Perhaps 3i Atlas is highly energized. Perhaps it is dragging a massive plasma tail that we can't see in the visible spectrum, and that tail brushed against our magnetosphere. These are valid scientific questions, but they don't feel like the full answer. Here is the crucial detail that makes the random coincidence theory harder to swallow. The signal didn't just turn on and off, it pulsed. It had a structure, and that structure seems to mirror the physical behavior of the object itself. As we analyze the signal logs, we are seeing a periodicity that matches the rotational dynamics of 3i Atlas. This suggests a coupling. It suggests that whatever is happening on the surface of that object is being felt here on Earth. It is as if the object is broadcasting its presence, or perhaps its internal state. The 25 Hz frequency is in the beta wave range of human brain activity associated with active thinking and focus. That is likely just a poetic coincidence. But in the context of the techno-signature debate, it is fuel for the fire. We are left with a stark dichotomy. On one hand, we have the conservative view. A rare comet and a rare atmospheric anomaly occurred simultaneously. On the other, the radical view, an artificial object passed by and pinged our planet intentionally or as a byproduct of its operation. To decide which is more likely, we have to look beyond the Earth. We have to look at the object itself. Because while Earth was humming at 25 Hz, 3i Atlas was doing something even more inexplicable. It was changing its rhythm. Reports are emerging about changes in the characteristics of the celestial body itself, specifically its rotation. And this isn't just a minor wobble, it is a shift that suggests a massive release of energy or a deliberate maneuver. As we move to the next part of our investigation, we need to ask, why did the pulse of the comet change at the exact moment it touched Earth? The answer might lie in the physics of a spin that shouldn't be possible. As we established in the previous segment, the electromagnetic anomaly on Earth was not an isolated event. It was a symptom of a much larger interaction. While our magnetosphere was ringing at 25 Hz, the object itself, 3i Atlas, was undergoing a physical transformation that has astronomers scrambling to rewrite their models. We are talking about the most essential characteristic of any celestial body, its spin. Every asteroid, every comet, every planet has a rhythm, a rotation period that is usually as steady as a clock. For 3i Atlas, that rhythm was fixed early on. Weeks of observation had pinned its rhythmic period, the time it takes to complete one full rotation, and vary its brightness at approximately 16.16 hours. It was a firm routine beat until December 19th. According to information from an international group of astronomers, the rhythmic period of the three-heart Atlas object changed from approximately 16.16 hours to 15.48 hours at the moment of its closest approach to Earth. Let's look closer at the data because the magnitude of this shift is shocking. We are talking about a reduction of nearly 41 minutes in a matter of hours to spin up a massive object. An object estimated to be kilometers in diameter requires a tremendous amount of energy. In classical mechanics, angular momentum is fixed. You don't just start spinning faster unless you shed mass or apply a torque. This contradicts what we former thought about the stability of this object. A standard comet can change its spin. Yes, as ice sublimates and jets of gas shoot out, they can act like thrusters, pushing the nucleus and altering its rotation. This is the rocket effect. But for a comet to spin up by this amount in this short a window would require an outgassing event of disastrous proportions. We should have seen a massive coma, a brightening that would have made it plain to the naked eye. We didn't. The brightness curve remained relatively fixed even as the spin accelerated. So what does this actually mean? If it wasn't a natural jet of gas, what pushed 3 Atlas? This is where the conversation shifts from commentary physics to something far more speculative. Astrophysicist Avi Loeb from the Harvard-Smithsonian Center for Astrophysics, known for supporting the possibility of artificial origins for interstellar objects, has previously suggested that periodic changes could be the result of hypothetical motors used for course correction. Loeb's argument is based on the idea that if you eliminate the impossible natural outgassing without a coma, whatever remains, however improbable. I want to stop here and hear your thoughts. Do you think this spin acceleration is just a freak natural occurrence we don't understand yet? Or is Avi Loeb onto something with the motor hypothesis? Drop a comment below. I'm reading through them as we go, and the debate is already heating up. Now let's return to the natural explanation, because mainstream science examines this data within the framework of studying the natural behavior of comets, particularly such unusual ones arriving from beyond the solar system. The rebuttal to Loeb is that 3I Atlas might be composed of strange materials. We know it came from another star system. Perhaps its ice is not water or CO2, but something with a different sublimation point, something that creates invisible jets. Or perhaps the object is fragmenting internally, shifting its center of mass and causing a turning effect, much like a figure skater pulling in their arms. But even the most conservative models are struggling to fit the data points. The torque required to shave 40 minutes off a 16-hour day is vast. If this was a natural event, it was a violent one. Yet the object remains intact. It hasn't broken apart. It hasn't formed a debris field. It just sped up. Here is the crucial detail that links this back to the Schumann resonance, the timing. The spin-up happened exactly at the closest approach to Earth. If this were a random outgassing event, it could have happened at perihelion to the Sun or at any point in its journey, but it happened when it was nearest to us. This synchronization is what fuels the probe hypothesis. If you were an automated probe passing a planet of interest, you might execute a maneuver to scan it or to transmit data. That maneuver might require a change in orientation, hence the spin change, and that transmission might leak energy into the local environment, hence the 25 Hz signal. The pieces fit together disturbingly well. But there is another layer to this mystery. If the object is spinning faster, the centrifugal forces on its surface are increasing. Any loose material, any dust or rocks, should be flung off into space. We should see a dust ring forming, and we do see a hoop. But it is not the kind of hoop anyone expected. It is not a messy cloud of debris. It is sharp, precise, and glowing, and in the center of that ring, where the nucleus should be, there is nothing. Or rather something so dark it looks like nothing. This brings us to the most visual and perhaps the most terrifying piece of evidence we have gathered so far. The spin paradox is just the prelude. The real anomaly is what that spin is hiding. As we process the high-resolution pictures taken during this spin-up event, we are seeing a structure that defies the very definition of a comet. It is not a frozen debris. It looks like an eye and it is gazing right at us. Building on this, we have to confront the visual evidence that has just come down from the high-gain broadcasts. If the 25 Hz signal was a whisper and the spin acceleration was a shriek, this picture is a scream. We have processed the basic telemetry from the multiple telescope arrays that were tracking 3I Atlas during its spin-up maneuver, and the composite image is unlike anything in the history of astronomy. 3 Atlas has just revealed its biggest anomaly. No comet has ever encountered anything like this. Original images obtained using multiple telescopes show a perfectly dark central space with a surrounding luminous hoop resembling a black hole at the comet's heart. This indicates that the object is vacant state's one post that has been circulating among the research teams, and for once the internet hype is understating the reality. Let's look closer at the data. In a standard comet, the brightest point is the nucleus, the solid chunk of matter reflecting sunlight. Surrounding it is the coma, a diffuse cloud of gas. What we are seeing here is the inverse. The middle of 3I Atlas is pitch black. It absorbs light. It is a space. Surrounding this space is a sharp defined ring of luminosity. This isn't a fuzzy coma, it's a spatial torus. It looks less like a comet and more like a smoke ring or the exhaust port of a massive engine. Furthermore, all observations show a perfectly centered dark core with a sharp, luminous hoop, something never previously observed in any comet. So what does this actually mean? There are two main schools of thought forming, and they are at war. The first is the optical illusion camp. They argue that we are looking at a shadow effect. Perhaps the nucleus is shaped like a dumbbell or a contact binary, and it is rotating in such a way that one part casts a shadow on the other, or the dust jets are blocking our view of the center. But the design is too perfect. The ring is symmetrical. The space is centered. Shadows shift. They wobble. This structure is fixed. The second school of thought is the hollow object hypothesis. This is where the artificial origin proponents are claiming victory. If the object is vacant, it cannot be a natural formation. Nature builds in clumps. Gravity pulls matter together into spheres or irregular potatoes. It doesn't build hollow frames. A hollow structure implies design. It implies a frame. If 3 Atlas is an abandoned probe or a ship, the dark core could be the non-reflective hole, and the luminous hoop could be the heat signature of its propulsion system. The very motors Avibe theorized were responsible for the spin change. Here is the crucial detail. The luminosity of the hoop matches the spectral marks of the spin-up event. The ring got brighter as the object spun faster. This suggests that the hoop is not just reflecting sunlight, it is generating energy, or it is the result of that massive outgassing event we discussed. But if it's outgassing, why is the middle empty? Why isn't the gas coming from the exterior? It looks as if the gas is being vented from the rim of the object, leaving the middle clear. This is consistent with a rotating torus design where centrifugal force keeps the interior clear. This contradicts what we former thought about the weight of the object. We assumed it was a solid rock. But if it's vacant, its mass is much lower than calculated. And if its weight is lower, its trajectory would be more susceptible to non-gravitational forces like solar radiation pressure or thrust. This brings us back to the impossible chemistry of the situation. We are seeing a structure that shouldn't exist, behaving in a way that shouldn't be possible, emitting signals that shouldn't be there. The black hole analogy used in the reports is visually accurate but physically impossible. A black hole of that mass would be microscopic. But the picture of a dark sun moving through our system is haunting. It suggests that 3 Atlas is not just a visitor, it is a watcher, a dark eye that opened up as it passed Earth, spun up its recording devices, and is now closing again as it heads back into the dark. And where is it heading? This is the next piece of the puzzle. You might think that after passing Earth, it would just drift out of the system. But the calculations show something else. It has a destination. It is not just leaving. It is making a pit stop. The trajectory glitch we noticed earlier has resolved into a clear path. 3I Atlas is hunting for something, and it seems to have found it in the orbit of the king of planets. The dark core is now pointed directly at Jupiter. This connects to the future of the mission or the encounter, depending on how you view it. We have analyzed the past, the signal, the spin, the dark core. Now, we must look at the future. According to calculations, the next stage of the object's journey will be an approach to Jupiter, scheduled to occur on March 16, 2026, at a distance of approximately 53 million kilometers. In the vastness of space, 53 million kilometers is a near miss. It is close enough to feel the massive gravitational grip of the gas giant. It is close enough to be captured or to be slung out at incredible speeds. Let's look closer at the data regarding this path. A random interstellar object falling into the solar system has a very low probability of passing this close to Earth and then this close to Jupiter. It is like threading a needle twice. The Jupiter alignment, as it is being called, is fueling the speculation that 3I Atlas is navigating. Jupiter is the gravitational weight of our solar system. If you want to leave the solar system fast, you use Jupiter for a gravity assist. We do it with our own probes, Traveler, Cassini, New Horizons. They all paid homage to the king to steal a bit of its energy. But here is the crucial detail. 3 Atlas is already moving fast enough to escape. It doesn't need a gravity assist. It has enough hyperbolic excess velocity to leave the sun's gravity well on its own. So why go to Jupiter? Why risk a close encounter with the most radiation-intense environment in the solar system? Some researchers suggest that the object might, after exiting our system, engage an unknown mode of propulsion to return. But before it leaves or returns, it seems to be conducting a review. Jupiter is a shield. It absorbs comets and asteroids that might otherwise hit Earth. It is a chaotic engine of storms and magnetic fields. If 3I Atlas is a scout, Jupiter is the most interesting thing here other than life on Earth. There is a theory purely speculative that the object is using Jupiter's massive magnetic field to charge. Remember the 25 Hz signal? That was an electromagnetic interaction. Jupiter's magnetic field is thousands of times stronger than Earth's. If 3I Atlas interacts with magnetic fields, the Jupiter encounter could be a charging stop. It could be feeding on the Jovian magnetosphere before the long dark journey to the next star. This would explain the dark core and the luminous hoop. Perhaps the ring is a suction mechanism, a magnetic scoop. However, these assumptions are not supported by proof and remain in the realm of hypothesis. The mainstream scientific community continues to classify 3 Atlas as a natural interstellar body whose study provides unique data. They argue that the Jupiter intercept is just luck. Space is big, but gravity wells are deep. Objects tend to fall towards massive bodies. It is a selection bias. We only see the ones that come close. But even the skeptics admit that the geometry is smooth. Earth for the biology, Jupiter for the physics. It is the perfect tour. Subsequently, it will pass the orbits of the outer planets and is expected to leave the solar system by 2030. The timeline is tight. We have only a few years of observation left. After March 2026, 3I Atlas will begin to fade. It will pass Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and then drift into the Kuiper Belt unless it changes angle again. The trajectory glitch we saw at Earth, the spin-up, the possible course correction could happen again at Jupiter. If it fires its motors at Perov, it could change its angle, it could stop, it could enter orbit. That is the nightmare scenario for some and the dream for others. If 3I Atlas enters orbit around Jupiter, it confirms everything. It confirms it is artificial. It confirms it is interested. But for now, the math says it is leaving. It is a traveler passing through the night. But the question remains, what is it taking with it? The data from the Schumann resonance, the spectral scans of our atmosphere, the pictures of our cities. As we watch it speed towards the giant planet, we are left with a sense of helplessness. We cannot catch it. We cannot communicate with it, or at least we don't know how. We can only watch and wonder if the dark core is watching us back. The Jupiter intercept will be the final test. If it behaves like a rock, we can breathe easy. If it behaves like a ship, Well, then the conversation changes from astronomy to sociology. We are approaching the end of this deep dive, but the story of 3i Atlas is far from over. The final verdict on what this object is and what it means for us is still being written. And as we will see in our final segment, the legacy of this visitor might not be what it took from us, but what it left behind. So, what does this actually mean? We have looked at the signal, the spin, the structure, and the path. We have seen a 25 Hz hum in our own atmosphere, a 41-minute acceleration in the object's day, a dark space where a nucleus should be, and a precision flyby of the two most significant planets in our system. We have heard the arguments from the mainstream who see a fascinating but natural rock, and from the outliers who see a technological artifact. As 3 Atlas begins its long climb out of the solar gravity, well destined to pass the orbits of the outer planets and leave the solar system by 2030, we are left with a cosmic verdict that is anything but agreed. The mainstream scientific community continues to classify 3 Atlas as a natural interstellar body whose study provides unique data. And they are right to be cautious. Extraordinary claims require extraordinary proof. A few radio blips and a weird photo are not enough to rewrite the manuals. They argue that the dark core is a shadow, the spin-up is outgassing, and the signal is a coincidence. It is a safe, sanitary ending. It keeps the universe solo, but understandable. But for those of us who have followed the data day by day, the natural explanation feels increasingly like a forced fit. It requires too many coincidences. It requires a comet that doesn't look like a comet acting like a probe arriving at the perfect time to be noticed. Within the realm of speculative theories, some researchers suggest that the object might, after existing our system, engage an unknown mode of propulsion to go back. We may never know the truth. By 2030, 3i Atlas will be a faint magnitude speck. By 2040 it will be gone, lost to the interstellar dark. But it has left a mark. It has forced us to look at the sky differently. It has forced us to listen to the hum of our own world with new ears. It has shown us that the line between natural and artificial might be blurrier than we think. The legacy of 3i Atlas is not in the answers it gave us, but in the questions it forced us to ask. Are we solo? Is the universe full of silent watchers? And if another one comes, will we be ready to do more than just watch it fly by? We need better eyes. We need better ears. We need to be ready to chase the next one. Because if the return hypothesis is wrong and it never comes back, we have lost our chance. But if the hypothesis is right, then this was just the scout and the fleet is yet to come. If you found this deep dive into the mystery of 3i Atlas fascinating, and you want to support science communication that isn't afraid to ask the hard questions, please hit that like button. It helps the algorithm find other curious minds like yours, and keep looking up. The universe is getting stranger every day.